Years 5 and 6, it's Miss Dyer here with our English learning journey. Week beginning Monday the 1st of February 2021. Now this is a week-long learning journey. Let's start by having a look at our inquiry question. So our inquiry question this week is, how do I create and describe an engaging main character for a story? Now, just like last week, we're going to be using the task wheel to guide us towards our outcome. And we are going to be recording our learning or journaling in our learning journal, just like we would in school. You can collect a new learning journal from the main office, or if this is proving to be a little bit tricky, please speak with your class teacher who will be able to offer you some support. You'll remember that our focus gateway for this term is explorers. And to be an explorer is about following your passions, seeking challenge, and aspiring to be the best version of yourself. And we've been focusing on 2 questions and will continue to do so for this learning journey as well. How have I shown determination and perseverance? How can I use reflection to make a decision when faced with a challenge? Now, before I start to unpick today's question, just so you are aware, Year 5 and 6, there are 2 tasks in this video, or 2 learning journal entries, as I'll be calling them. It's up to you whether you decide to do one this morning and one this afternoon, or whether you decide to roll over one until tomorrow. You might start something today and need to finish it tomorrow, and that's absolutely fine. So we're going to begin today by focusing on the first element of our task wheel, which is about gathering and organising. We're going to be thinking to ourselves, what do I know about this inquiry question? Okay, so let's start by unpicking the question and identifying the key vocabulary. How do I create and describe an engaging main character for a story? Okay, so which words then do you think are the key words or the most important words? If you pause the video now, Year 5 and 6, have a little think to yourself, make a decision, see if you can explain why you think they're important. Okay then, Year 5 and 6, what have you decided so far? I'm thinking, how do I create? I think I is important because that means the responsibility is on the individual person. So you'll need to have some responsibility this week about creating and describing an engaging main character for a story. So let's have a little think. What do I know about these words already? Well, I means that I or you will have to take responsibility for your own learning. So I have responsibility for my learning, which is always the case, but even more so when it is an I rather than a we. Okay, let's make that a bit bigger. Let's think about the word create now then. What does it mean if you're going to create something? Well, if I'm creating a main character, that means I'm going to have to design or come up with a main character this week. Or make a main character. Okay. Now, describing that character, that's the next keyword I picked out. If I'm going to have to describe something, that means I'm going to have to tell my reader about the character. We did lots of description last week about a storm, and we were focusing on making a picture in the imagination of our reader. And if we're describing a character, we want them to be able to picture that character. Now it's got to be a main character, so that means it's the lead character or the focus character in a story. So the story is most likely going to be about them. Now a story, well, there are many types of story. We know of fables, we know of adventure stories, we know of stories that are set or based on real life events. We know that there may be fantasy stories. I'm going to put ... because I know that you will know of many more stories. Now, let's have a think about this word engaging, because we're going to create and describe an engaging character. Now, what does engaging mean? Again, year 5 and 6, if you could pause the video now, have a think to yourself, perhaps do a little bit of research. What does engaging mean? Okay, year 5 and 6, hopefully you've had a think about the word engaging. Now, I've used a mind map here to record synonyms or words that have the same or similar meaning as engaging. So I want my main character to be interesting, to captivate my audience. That means they want to know more about that character. They can't stop reading about them. I want him or her to be appealing. So for a reader to pick up my book and think, oh, who's this? I want to know more about this character or this person. Maybe I want them to be intriguing, to have a little bit of a mystery about them. Okay, so we've unpicked our main question. We know that we all have responsibility for our own learning. We know we're going to design or come up with a main character. They've got to be engaging. We know we're going to describe this character and they're going to be part of a story. Okay, so that's what I know. The next part of our task wheel then is about identifying our outcome, which I think we're very close to. Our outcome then. By Friday, we're going to create an engaging character for a story and we're going to describe this character. Okay, so we know then a little bit about the inquiry question and we've now identified our outcome. So that brings me on to our first learning journal entry. Now, what you're going to do in your learning journal or on a piece of paper at home, first of all, you're going to need to write the date and your inquiry question. How can I create and describe an engaging main character for a story? And then you're going to create the first page for your learning journal. And we've done this many times at school and the children will be very familiar with doing this. And in fact, children, you'll be able to teach your grown-ups about what a first page looks like. Now, if you find this tricky, I have made a worksheet to help you. Okay, and this will help you organise your page and your thinking. It looks like this. So at the top, I wrote my inquiry question and the date. I used my ruler to draw a line down the right-hand side of the page to create my thinking column. Now, on this side, I've got the task wheel. And my first job is to unpick the question. So just like we did before year 5 and 6, I'm going to flip back to remind you, you're going to need to identify the keywords, and note down some ideas about the keywords. You may like to use my idea of a mind map for synonyms of engaging. So in this space here, we'll have the question unpicked and explained. And then somewhere on your page, again, it doesn't have to look like this is just an idea. Somewhere on your page, you'll need to identify your outcome. So that means writing a sentence about what you're going to achieve by Friday. And if you're not sure, you'll be able to use this video to help you. And you'll be able to pause on the outcome and use that to help you. Okay, then that brings us on to our thinking column. Now our thinking column is a little bit like a reflection column. And again, children, you're very used to writing reflections. So once you've unpicked your question and once you've identified your outcome, you'll need to create your thinking column. And I've put 3 reflection questions here, or 3 reflection points for you to think about. The first one is, what I think makes a good character. So year 5 and 6, what do you think makes a good character? And you could use bullet points You could use a mind map for this, or any other thinking tool that you know of. Now, I've put some things here which may come to mind. So, what do you think makes a good character? Do they have to be funny? Perhaps you think a good character is a villain or a hero. Perhaps you think a good character has superpowers. Or you may think that a good character has to be believable. Okay, so that's your first reflection point. Your second reflection point. My initial ideas for a character. So you may already have some ideas, your first ideas about a character you could create. You may think that they're the same age as you. You may want them to be adventurous or outgoing. You may want your character to solve crimes or to be brave. Again, you can use bullet points or a mind map or any other thinking tool that you know of. Your third and final reflection point for your first entry is, I need to find out more about. So in order to be able to answer your inquiry question, what do you need to know about? Or what do you want to learn about? So some ideas that I'd had. You might want to look at examples from authors of engaging characters. You might want to research some characters that you already know about. You might be thinking, well, I know how to describe a setting because I did that last week. But how do I describe a character? Is it the same or different? Okay, so just to recap year 5 and 6, you'll have the question and the date at the top. You will have unpicked your question, so that's pointing out the key vocabulary and creating some information about what the question means. That could include a mind map of synonyms of engaging. On this page, you'll also have your outcome written clearly, and you will have answered the 3 reflective points. Now, if you've got some time and you want to sort of jazz up your front cover, you might decide that you're going to put some pictures or do some drawings of your favourite characters or your favourite stories. Okay, so that's Learning Journal entry number 1. Now, like I say, there is a second entry to do either today or tomorrow. So if you'd like to pause the video now, year 5 or 6, and you can come back when you're ready for entry number 2. Welcome back year 5 and year 6. So we're ready for entry number 2. Now, we'll just start with a quick recap about what we've done this morning or yesterday. So we had a look at our inquiry question. How do I create and describe an engaging main character for a story? We unpicked that question, so we found the key vocabulary and we made sure that we knew what our outcome was. We identified our outcome. We've also begun to record our learning or our thinking in a journal. Okay, and we're going to continue to use our journal for the rest of the week. We reminded ourselves of this term's gateway, to be an explorer, and of the 2 questions that we are focusing on. Now, this morning or yesterday, we did our first page in our learning journal. Now we're going to think about entry number 2. Okay, for entry number 2, I have got it there, that's okay. I thought I'd forgotten something here, 5 and 6. Don't mind me. Let's get back to what we were doing. So for entry number 2, you're going to need to write the date and inquiry question at the top of a clean page. And you may want to use a double page for this entry. Now your task is to research your favourite characters and consider what makes them engaging. So here's some ideas for your journal page, and we're generating as many ideas as we possibly can about our favourite characters and what makes them engaging. Okay, so some things that you could think about researching. Draw a picture of 2 or 3 of your favourite characters. Describe them. What do they look like? What's their personality like? Who do they live with? What happened with them to them in their story? You might even decide to use some quotes from the story. Next, you'll need to think about why are they engaging. You could use a mind map to explain what makes them interesting or fun to read about. You might like to research what the author says about them. You might want to research what the fans say about them. So, for example, you could find some reviews. Okay, now I have made another worksheet to help you. Now this is just an idea, Year 5 and Year 6, about how you can lay out your page. And there are also 3 reflection points for you to think about. So, like I say, at the top, you'll need your inquiry question. And this is the top of a clean page. Ideally, it's probably a double page. And the date. Then I've put the task wheel on. You don't have to put the task wheel on yours, but you might like to do a green arrow and the word generate so you know where you're up to. And then on this page here, you can stick on or draw pictures of your favourite characters, quotes that you found about them, and you could use mind maps, bullet points, you could use text boxes and captions to record your thinking, your research. When you've done your research, Year 5 and 6, it'll be time to do your thinking column. So this is your reflection column. And we've got 3 reflection points. So again, you're going to think about what makes an engaging character. Have you changed your mind? Or is there something you'd like to add to your list? Do they need to be mysterious or brave or adventurous? Do you have some ideas now for an initial character? For example, would you like a character to be a boy who's 12 years old? Perhaps he has a hidden power. Perhaps he's going to go on an adventure to rescue his dad. Any ideas that you have at this point about your character, jot down in your thinking column. And then lastly, how has my research helped me to answer the inquiry question? You might like to say something like this. The research gave me lots of ideas about characters I've enjoyed when reading. I've got some ideas for my own character. I also know what I don't find engaging. Okay, so just a recap then at Year 5 and 6. Learning Journal entry number 2. You're going to research your favourite characters and think about or consider what makes them engaging. You might decide that you're going to use a double page, and I do recommend a double page, to draw a picture of 2 or 3 of your favourite characters. Around your picture you might describe them, what they look like, their personality, including quotes from the story. You might think, what do we know about them? Where do they live? What are their hobbies? Then you'll need to think about why they are engaging. Why did you enjoy reading about them? You could also research what the author says about them. And you could research what the fans say about them. And then lastly, on Dojo, I have put an example of what your page might look like in your book and your 3 reflection points for this journal entry. Okay, as always, Year 5 and 6, please share your learning journey with Mrs. PA and myself. We really look forward to seeing your research. Have a wonderful day, everybody.